Hi friends, welcome to your mat. I am Anne, and today I am going to show you three different ways to get into your hips. They're kind of a progression. So we're just going to start in a seated meditation, take a couple breaths together, and we'll go through those three different hip stretches. Come on to your sitting bones, sit up tall. Take Sukhasana, so crossing the legs with the heels centered with the center of your body, and this is a hip stretch in itself. Some of us know that greatly. Close your eyes, relax your shoulders out of your ears, and just take a couple breaths, arriving to your mat, to your practice. Our hips are a place where we store emotions, memories. So when we are stretching into the hips, we're really releasing old layers of stuff that isn't working for us anymore. A hip stretch can feel super intense, and sometimes we can stay in it for a really long time. So I don't know what that's all about. I feel like I'm usually always tight, but sometimes I'm surprised about how open I actually feel. So I do think there is a huge connection to our emotional state, the way our hips feel, and also, of course, what kind of exercise you do, how active or inactive are you. So let's dedicate to really learning our hips today. We're going to come onto our backs to start, and you'll start with just simply crossing your right ankle, nice firm flex in the ankle over your left thigh. Your hands are going to press into your thighs, and this is going to be a really gentle way to get into your hips. So you can simply stay here. If this is already intense, that might be where you want to be for a little bit. If you are open to going deeper, your hands will interweave behind the belly of your hamstring. And as you're here, some people like to place their hand around the shin. I prefer the hamstring because then your knee is not getting involved. Your knee is kind of free of this stretch. You'll move your left knee in line with your left shoulder, and then slowly use your right elbow to prop the right hip open as you're pulling the left knee in. You're going to a place that feels like a good deep stretch, but not your deepest, right? There's always something to be desired. And once you get there, close your eyes, relax your shoulders, your jaw. Don't let the tension move from your hip to someplace else. Breathe nice, deep, slow, long breaths in, and make sure your exhales are a little bit longer than your inhales. When we do that, it releases tension. It helps us create space. And one of the things I like to visualize while I'm stretching into my hips is that I'm going into a garden and I'm weeding. I'm getting rid of anything that is not supposed to be there. And I'm not just cutting it off at the dirt because it's going to grow right back. I'm digging down into the dirt and getting the roots out. And that is really what we're doing when we're stretching into our hips. We're going back in time to old layers of memories, of things we said or didn't say, of impressions, of things we did or didn't do, things that aren't serving us in today's world. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Beautiful. Let's release, and we'll start with the other side. So start by crossing your left ankle over your right thigh. And again, flexing at the ankle is going to help protect the knee. You can press your hands into your thighs, which I love this little release for the hip and lower back. On days my lower back is really tight, this is something I like to do. All right, you can stay there, or you're interweaving your hands behind the belly of your right hamstring, relaxing your shoulders. And again, lining your right knee up with your right shoulder. When the knee pulls across the body, it's compensating for the tightness of the left hip. So again, do as best you can. And then as you pull your knee in with the strength of your biceps, prop your left hip open by pressing your left elbow into the thigh. Get to a place that you can kind of relax what you don't need to use here. And breathe into that space of, again, removing what is not serving your purpose. And if all you can do is just hold the pose and breathe, you're doing the work. As we practice more and more and more, we start to go into deeper layers of the work. So just kind of introducing yourself to, why are we stretching the hips? Why might my hips be tight? And you can take it or leave it. Make sure your breath, your exhales are as long as, or even a little longer than your inhales. Three more breaths here. Beautiful. Let's unwind that second side. Grab behind your legs and rock your way up. And we'll come into a down dog. So as you come into down dog, I'd like to take single leg pigeon from this place. Now, if your knees have any issues, you'll stay with the versions on your back, okay? Otherwise, right leg to the sky, bending the knee and opening up the hips. Right knee behind your right wrist, foot to the left. Inching back through the left knee and just setting this pose up, looking back at the foot, making sure the toes aren't turning to the side. Hips are square, so again, you're not leaning over onto one hip here. And as you square off, you'll lengthen and then take that length with you as you fold. And you can use something underneath your chest to support you, a prop. You can use a block or a prop underneath your hip if you wish. And as you're coming down, I want you to get, again, as the least amount of tension in the rest of your body. So your hands are relaxed, your shoulders are relaxed, your jaw is relaxed. Maybe your head is resting down. Regardless of where you end up, you're in a place that you can hold. And again, it's not going to be your deepest of stretch of all time, but it's a place where, you can be here for a little bit of time. This is kind of the next step from the thread the eye of the needle on the back. This is the next pose in the progression. You do get a little bit different stuff out of it. You have the opening of the front of the left hip here, right? You get to be out of your hands. You don't have to use your biceps as much. So that can be more relaxing in some cases. And over time, the idea is that the right shin is coming closer to parallel across your mat, but for most of us, it's not going to get there because we're tight. This is not going to be as long of a hold. Just allowing yourselves to feel the pose, feel the release. Three more breaths here. I always find that if I do thread the eye of the needle on my back before I get into single leg pigeon, my pigeon is a little bit more open. Coming out of it, crawl up onto your hands, tuck your back toe, lift the back knee, and then head back to down dog and shake your leg out. Just kind of release the tension. Placing the foot back to the ground when you're ready, and then reach left leg to the sky, bend the knee, open up through your hip, and bring your knee behind your left wrist. Foot heads over towards the right with that same flex in the front ankle, inch your right knee back. Relax the back ankle and look back. Make sure your foot is again straight back here. And then come up onto your fingertips and lengthen your spine before you're surrendering down. That helps us to just get nice and long in the body, using maybe the same or different props here if you need to, and then go inward. As we deepen the stretch in the hips by repetition, this is great if you do a lot of running, walking, cycling, skiing. The hips can definitely get tight from activity. Not all tightness is bad. We need a little bit of tightness to keep our joints in place, keep our joints healthy. Another one of my favorite visualizations for the hips is, this is kind of funny, but you're going on a trip and you have two giant suitcases and they're so full you can't even close them, let alone pick them up. So the stretching and the releasing into the hips is you going into each of those suitcases and removing items that you don't need anymore, that you're not going to use, taking them out of the bag so you can, one, zip the bag, and two, carry the load. So you go in and you sort through and you release, you let go. 3 more breaths here. Head back to down dog, and one more time shake out the left leg now. So as you do that, you're just kind of opening up and letting go. Follow me through a vinyasa just to release our spine. So shift forward to plank, lower to either your belly or halfway down. Inhale, come into a cobra, or if you want to, into an up dog. Just hold that back bend for a moment. And exhale, press towards down dog. And then you'll lower to your knees, and we'll take our third and final pose that is kind of the progression. So if you're just starting out with yoga, you might stay with thread the needle on your back, then you might move to single leg pigeon, and ultimately we're working on a double pigeon here. So taking your left shin parallel to the ground, placing your right foot in your left hand and just moving your leg around here. And lucky us, we've already stretched a little, so we're more open. You would never just start with this pose unless that's something you're used to doing with. Stacking ankles and shins and knees. And just kind of lifting up, that's helpful. And relaxing the shins on top of each other. That back foot's going to want to slide in if you're tight, so kick it forward. And if you're here, you can stay upright, hands rest on thighs, wherever they feel most comfortable, or you can fold. And I want you to pick a place that feels good, right? That feels accessible and doable. So if you're folding, maybe you have blocks in front of you, maybe you have a bolster, maybe you can reach your forearms to the earth. As you breathe into this deeper version yet, go back in there. Don't force it. If it feels like it's too much for today, back out a little bit. Sometimes we get to a place where we realize I've gone too far. Our mat is where we can practice being reasonable with ourselves, right? So if you're somebody who goes too far on your mat and you don't back out of it and you get injuries, you're probably also somebody who goes too far off your mat in your relationships, in your life, and gets yourself in trouble. So how can we really practice on our mat what we want to do off of our mat? 3 more breaths here. I don't know about you guys, but my intensity in the hips has hit an all-time high, but at the same time, I feel like it's doable. Right? I feel like I prepped for this. When you're ready, just remember what shin you have on top so you can switch, take your feet forward and just kind of windshield wiper the feet, and that will help release the hip flexors a little bit. And then you'll do the other side. So I like to always just kind of rock my hip first. That helps me just loosen up, although we should be okay to get into it. Ankle on top of knee, right at the knee at the thigh. And if you're here, like you're stuck here, you can do one of two things. You can slide a bolster underneath your butt. You can place something between the knee and the ankle, or you can say this is too much. Another thing that I should have said this on the other time, you can always just stack your foot in front. That's kind of like the baby version of this, and fold if you wish, okay? So sorry, I didn't let you know that on the first side. So I always lift up, kind of realign everything. Make sure the ankles keep that firm flex. That's going to keep your knees nice and safe here. And again, you can stay upright or start to walk your hands forward. Second side might look different than the first, right? We all have different injuries that we have had in the past or maybe present. Breathe into loosening and letting go, creating space, creating a depth to your practice, creating an understanding to your body. Maybe you just came here today for this practice just because your hips are tight, just like mine are. So a little focus on the hips is really nice if you know that you've been doing a lot to tighten those things up. Relax your face, your neck, your jaw. Deepen your breath. Send your breath to the tightest spots in your body. Weed your garden, unpack your bags, whatever it is you like to visualize. Stay with it. Let's take 3 more breaths. When you're ready, release your legs, windshield washer your feet. That feels really good. And then after you've done your feet, just do your knees too, back and forth a couple times. Come back to your seat and just close your eyes, bring your hands to a heart center. And I just want to say I'm so grateful that we have the ability to practice together. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things, make a comment, let me know how you feel, and I hope to see you really soon. Thanks for being here. Namaste.